Republicans just don't have a lot of power. They have a slim majority and they can't agree on anything. So it hasn't really worked out too well for us. And here's the reason. Once again, it was abortion. In the Republican Party and in conservative media, I'm afraid we have a lot of delusions. And I want to knock those down one by one. And one of the most frustrating and recently catastrophic in terms of elections is that of abortion. And quite simply, abortion is killing the Republicans at the ballot box. It's pretty clear that abortion is not working for Republicans in any way or manner. At the same time, the hardcore of the pro-life movement is very loyal to the Republican Party, and they're an important part of our coalition. But it seems like we've been doomed by our own success, and I'm referring to the Dobbs decision. So Republicans are very pro-life. By large majorities, surprisingly almost. You might expect some diversity of opinion, but it doesn't really exist. Democrats are very pro-abortion, so it's kind of an intractable issue. But Republicans right now are like held hostage by events, and we have to get a hold of it, and I think we have to just take it off the table, to be honest, the whole issue of abortion, because nobody wants to say it, but I'm going to say it. It's hurting us. Here's an op-ed from Erikson headlined, "Republicans Can Win on the 15-Week Abortion Sweet Spot," which ran in Daily Caller a couple weeks ago, or last week. And in this op-ed, Erikson argues that the results in Virginia were, number one, not as bad as we might have thought. Number two, that the Republicans were badly outspent on advertising, especially vis-a-vis the issue of abortion. And number three, that redistricting actually is what hurt the Republicans more than abortion. So you can see his angle. Erikson is a guy who is, very hardcore pro-life. He also happens to be a never-Trumper. And I think it's interesting how those two groups kind of intersect. The pro-life people, who in my opinion are getting us killed in elections, are also tend to be a little bit never-Trumpers. So interesting. I think we need to shine a little bit of spotlight on this group of operatives and opinion makers. So Erikson writes, "A review of the Virginia data suggests a 15-week abortion compromise actually is a winning issue for the Republicans." So in Virginia, that's what the Republicans were advocating, was some legislation to outlaw abortion after 15 weeks with exceptions for rape and incest. Nobody cares about the exceptions. It still got us killed. No pun intended. So Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia led the GOP to embrace a 15-week abortion law that would prohibit abortions after 15 weeks, with exceptions of rape, incest, and the life of the mother. As Democrats revved up their attacks on Youngkin and the Republicans, insisting the GOP would ban all abortions, the GOP pushed back with their compromise proposal over and over. On election night 2023, things did not go the way the GOP wanted. Republicans not only lost the Virginia House of Delegates, but they failed to gain the Virginia Senate. So at issue in this election was the two houses of the Virginia Congress, which is the House and the Senate. Republicans controlled the House before the off-year election, and they lost the House. And they also failed to win the Senate. And in my opinion, that was because of the issue of abortion, because Youngkin and the Republicans in Virginia were proposing a 15-week ban abortion law, which people like Erikson think is very, magnanimous, and it's a great compromise. But apparently voters don't think so, okay? Voters rejected that. And let's see how Erikson explains this, which is, to give him credit, he does have some, evidence and details to back up his argument, although I still think ultimately that he's incorrect. He says, second, Democrats outspent the Republicans in Virginia, attacking the GOP as MAGA cultists who would ban women from all abortions. Yeah, okay, so Democrats spent a lot of money, and they used the abortion issue to get out their voters and also to persuade independents. That's because it's a winning issue for them. That's why they devoted resources, and it worked, okay? So if we're going to complain about that, it's like we're just never going to win. That Voters are persuaded by the issue of abortion to vote for Democrats, period. It doesn't persuade Republicans, but we can't just win with Republicans. I hate to say it. And it's also a turnout issue. So what actually happened in Virginia, Erikson asks, faced with new district lines and Democrats' spending advantage, Republicans went from a 52 to 48 majority to a 48 to 51 minority with one seat outstanding of this writing. So they lost the House, which is crazy. And we were all expecting to win this because it's like when the Democrats are in charge of the executive branch, one kind of assumes that the other party is going to make gains in both the midterms and off-year elections. And we haven't been doing that because of abortion. And here's my theory, if I could just cut in. Here's my theory. The issue of abortion is working for Democrats so well because it's something very concrete that everybody understands. It's like politics it can be a little bit abstract for people. And, I'm someone who's into politics and I follow it, and you might be too. And so we might align with one or the other party ideologically, and we have ideas about society that inform the way that we vote. Whereas other people are really, if you just talk to someone who's not into politics, they have just kind of random grab bag of beliefs. They might be Democrats, they might be Republicans, but for some reason, the issue of abortion makes everything very concrete, and women in particular see this issue as something that might affect them, like they might get pregnant and be forced to give birth to a baby they don't want. And I might find that distasteful, and you might find it distasteful, but regardless, are we going to die on this hill that we're going to lose every election because of abortion, and we're literally going to lose the country because we're standing on principles? I mean, that seems like what people like Erikson, that's kind of like their calling card, is they like to go down in a noble defeat, but I don't want to. Now, here's just a screenshot from something I was watching about the 2022 midterms, in which Republicans were expecting a red wave, and it turned out to be like a trickle. We won the House barely, and all the chaos that is ensued from that because Republicans just don't have a lot of power. They have a slim majority, and they can't agree on anything. So it hasn't really worked out too well for us. And here's the reason. Once again, it was abortion. 32% of voters said their most important issue in the midterms was inflation. But that was just Republicans, to be honest. This is just Republicans repeating what they're being told on Fox News, that inflation is bad, and so I'm going to tell the pollster that that's, and I don't mean that like in a derogatory way. I mean, people are just, they don't want to say anything too controversial, so they're just like, yeah, inflation is what my issue is. But they're just Republicans voting as Republicans do. 27% in the midterms said abortion was their issue, and that was big for Democrats, and abortion led to high turnout among Democrats, and that's why we did so poorly in the 2022 midterms. Again, like, midterms are usually a very abstract kind of election, like who controls the House, and you have to think about the three branches of government, and it's really not something of such burning importance. But when abortion was on the agenda, then suddenly people came out to vote because it's a concrete issue which people feel like affects their lives, rather than something abstract like who controls Congress. Abortion is a concrete issue which motivates people rather than abstract things like the economy and even these other issues, gun policy and immigration. I think Republicans care about immigration. I'm surprised it was only 10%. But, I think people, it's not like a politically correct thing to say that my number one thing is immigration. It's like, it's like not a good look, apparently, to tell pollsters that. However, the issue of immigration is a lost cause if we keep losing every election because of abortion, just by the way. Now getting back to the off-year election from a couple weeks ago, here is some exit polls from CNN about abortion rights protection, as they call it, the ballot initiative to protect abortion rights, which passed. I know that's kind of Democrat framing, but let's just, leave it at that for now. So most married people, 51%, were in favor of protecting abortion in Ohio. 67% of not married people, wow, want abortion. 92% of Democrats, so almost all Democrats. 18% of Republicans want to protect abortion. 64% of independents. So that's what's killing us right there, is the independents. Which is to say simply that Republicans are not appealing to independents in this kind of hardcore pro-life stance that we're taking. 69% of moderates voted for it and 94% of liberals. Okay, now let's get to race. A little interesting here. 53% of whites wanted the abortion protection. 83% of blacks wanted the abortion protection, and 73% of Latinos. So I've been hearing for like 2 decades about naturally conservative black voters and Latinos. Well, is this your naturally conservative black voter who 83% of whom want to protect abortion? I'm not saying they're like wrong for that or bad. I mean, you're free to have your own opinion about abortion, obviously, but I just think it's funny that this kind of puts the lie to the idea that black and Hispanic voters are socially conservative in the way that this term is conceived of by like the Republican kind of establishment and conservative media like Fox News and talk radio. You hear so much about, oh man, like minorities are actually really conservative. Just you wait. I mean, they're going to break for us. No, they're not, number one. And number two, they overwhelmingly supported abortion, according to this Ohio exit poll from 2023. So according to the exit poll, blacks and Latinos very, very highly wanted to protect abortion in Ohio. Women, 60%. So females are killing us, the Republican Party, in these elections because of abortion. 60% of females voted to protect the abortion rights in Ohio. And maybe if we could take the abortion issue off the table, women would calm down a little bit. One more closing thought. I remember in the primary when Pence was still in there, it seemed like Mike Pence and DeSantis were trying to tack to Trump's right on the issue of abortion. And I thought, this is a disaster. This is the last thing we need as the Republican Party. I think Trump is smarter than them in that he senses that abortion is a very tricky issue, and he's at least trying to project a more moderate image. And let's be honest, Trump probably doesn't care that much about abortion anyway. So hopefully moving forward, Republicans get some sense of reality and humility on this issue, or do they insist on being so benighted that we continue to defeat after defeat and literally lose the country due to the hubris of the pro-life movement? Well, I hope we don't, but that's why I'm not in the, conservative media or establishment, because I have too much common sense. So thanks for listening. My name is Michael McCara. In the description, you can find my social media. Follow me on Twitter. Visit my blog, michaelmccarablog.com, and finally, like and subscribe to my channel.
I've only heard what love can do.